All right, so let's jump right into Gimp first. Go ahead and set up a new file. And I'm going to want to select an HD template. And under the advanced options, I'm going to go ahead and bump up the precision to 16-bit floating for the color. And that's useful in Resolve to have a higher floating point for your colors. For this example, I've got something pretty simple, but I just wanted to show you that. So go ahead and hit OK here. All right, so let's go ahead and create a gradient. I just hit the G key and I'll go to my gradient tab up here. I'm going to use this deep C option here and I'll drag a gradient on here. That looks okay. So that'll be my first layer called the background. Let's go ahead and add a text layer in here. Let's go ahead and get a new font in here. And I'll go ahead and pick this one here. And we'll call this one Gimp to Resolve. I'm going to select that and bump up the size quite a bit here. That looks fine to me. Okay, so I have 2 layers in Gimp here now. I'll go ahead and just add a third one just so we can take a look at those. And yeah, I'll call this one Surface. Hit OK. And I'm going to draw some markings on here. Let's use this texture here. Something simple here. And then I'll add actually one more. Just call this one Bubbles. Okay, just keeping it simple here. All right, so I have... Actually, I don't like how I made those wider, but it is what it is. Okay, so I have 4 layers in here now. And I'm going to go ahead and export this out so I can get it prepared to place into Resolve and all these layers to be available for us there. So let's go ahead and do an export. We can hit Control E or use the menu up here. And go ahead and I'll select my location here. And I'm going to go ahead and use this select file by type. Let's go down and select Photoshop image here. And I'm going to call this Gimp to Resolve. And so let's go ahead and export that. It's a small file, so it was done really quickly. Okay, jumping over to DaVinci Resolve, I'm going to show you now how to import all the layers from the file that you just created in Gimp. Before I do that, I'm going to show you a couple of different options here. So a way to just import your composite without all the layers, if you just want to drag and drop the Gimp file or the PSD file you made in Gimp onto your media pool, and I'm in the edit page. If you need to get there, hit Shift and the number 4 to get there. So now we have this PSD file right in our media pool that we can use. You can see it is in the timeline now, and it's basically the full resolution, full composition that we created, all 4 layers. So that's a quick and dirty way to do it, but let me get a little bit more detailed here. So to look at all the layers, we're going to want to grab a fusion composition and drag it onto the timeline here. If you don't see that fusion composition, make sure this effects library is open. Go down here under Toolbox, Effects, and you'll see the fusion composition here at the top. So now that we have that in place, go ahead and go to the fusion page. You can hit Shift 5 or click this little button down here. To get all of your layers, you're going to want to go up here to the top menu and you're going to see Fusion and go down to Import and then PSD. And it's going to prompt you for the file name that you want to input here. And let me grab that one. There it is. So when I import that, it creates a nice node tree for us automatically. And so these are all the layers, and I kind of named them in the previous step so you could see where they're at. So we had the bubbles layer, the surface layer, the original background, and the text. So starting from the top, we saw this on the bottom in Gimp. So there's our background, there's our text layer, there's kind of that surface texture, and here's some bubbles there. So these automatically put in these merge nodes for us. So we can use any of these outputs, or we can use the overall composition. So if I make that go out, it now goes into the media out. So this gives us a lot more flexibility and control. Now I can take all these individual nodes and I can manipulate them individually. One thing I wanted to point out on these layers, let's go ahead and select the bubble layer here. And you can see if we have the inspector open, it's going to say the layer is bubbles here. And if we take a look, we have a pull down. We can look at all the different layers, or we can select the layer from our node here. Because we have that PSD file, we can select which one we want to view here. So in this case, I have the bubbles layer here. If I wanted to select another surface, so now I really am showing two different surface layers, even though that is labeled bubbles. That's a little bit confusing, but let me show you what I mean. So I have bubbles shown on the right here and surface on the left. But you can see since I have bubbles not selected, I have surface selected on the right pane. I'm going to see that surface again. So there's my bubbles and there's my surface. So if you want to turn any of these layers off and on, the easiest way to do that obviously is to just break this connection here. And if we go to our full composition here, you can see that that surface layer is gone. I'll go ahead and reconnect it. The other way to do that is right click on the node itself, go to modes, and you select pass through, or you can also hit Control P, and I'll do that to bring it back here. So you can see there it is again. So that just disables the node if you want to kind of get rid of it and remove it from your composition. So that makes it really easy to manipulate in Resolve. So we have control of these nodes. So let me show you what you can do. So we have like this surface. Actually, let's take these bubbles. We'll go ahead and add a transform node in here. I'm going to hit Shift and Space Bar. And so now I can take these bubbles. So let's just start them right here. And I'll create a keyframe there. And then I'll make another keyframe there. And we'll turn this node back on. So now we kind of get those bubbles moving up. Let's take a look at it in the edit page here. So that's really handy to create some animations and bring some liveliness to our images using the graphics assets that we create in Gimp. So that's really great. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. If you have any comments or questions on this procedure or any suggestions, anything that you'd like to see Blackmagic do with Gimp files or other PSD files in their software, I'd like to see your suggestions and comments on those items. Otherwise, thanks a lot for watching. Take care, everyone.